There's a quiet power living in Alberta right now. You have it, so do I. It's the power of where you save your money. Keeping your money at ATB means we can create loans for the people, places, and businesses that make Alberta, Alberta. Talk to ATB about the Amplified GIC for business with a rising rate and flexible cashability. Get your money working for you. And Alberta, too. ATB listens.
Blog Talk Radio.
Well, hello, divas out there. Welcome to the Divas That Care Network. My name is Candace Gish, and I am the host of the show. Thank you to each and every one of you that has tuned in today. We have an amazing, brand new diva to our family we're going to be introducing today. Her name is Christine Lueken, and I'm really excited to have her. She's going to be sharing some amazing things with all of you listeners today. For any of you that have just tuned in today, welcome. Our show's now been running for just over 8 years. We're really excited. And just recently, in 2018, we have expanded. So now we have a whole bunch of brand new hosts that are a part of our network. So I hope that you're able to tune into them and listen to these amazing women. Well, let's get started, ladies. I'm excited. Christine Lueken, I'm very excited to have you as my amazing guest today. I would love you to come on board and share with our amazing listeners all about yourself.
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me. Yes, I am Christine Lueken. I'm known as the Financial Lifeguard, and my goal is to empower as many people as possible to rescue their financial dignity. And the reason why I want to do that is because in my past, I went through a period of time where I completely screwed up my own finances, not because I didn't know better. I actually had an accounting degree. But I crashed and burned pretty hard to the tune of owing 3 different payday lenders money. I was actually parking my car about a half a mile away from my apartment so it wouldn't get towed, collection calls. So, I have seen financial rock bottom, and I know exactly what it feels like to experience anxiety and shame around money.
And that's a really hard thing, isn't it? It's not an uncommon thing to kind of go through what you've gone through in your past, and it's led you to what you're doing today. I'm really excited because, this is a hot topic, isn't it, Christine? This is something that people are ashamed of. It's not something that they want to talk about. And I really want to dive into this because this is something that you're really helping families overcome.
Yeah, and, this affects people across all races, all income levels, people of both genders. Money stress does not discriminate. And it's very interesting because a lot of my coaching clients that I work with one-on-one are actually high income earners. And a lot of people think, if I just made more money, then I wouldn't be in this situation. But the truth of the matter is, it's not really about the amounts that you're making. It is your underlying mindsets and that drive your habits around money. And unfortunately, we don't really teach this in our school systems. We don't have, a standard way for learning about how to behave with our finances. Now, some of us were fortunate enough to learn from our parents, but my parents taught me well, and I completely threw it all out the window. And for me, it was a matter of I had been engaged to a guy who had terrible money habits. He was in and out of jobs, in and out of jail. I thought if I just loved him enough that he would change. And, so for me, it was that money stress was actually a symptom of a dysfunctional relationship. And so a lot of times, these money symptoms can manifest from things that have nothing to do with money. And so what I realized was that there was like this gap out there in the financial education. There's a lot of money gurus out there. You can Google how to do a budget, how do I pay off my debt, what do I need to do to save for retirement? The tactics are out there. But the problem is getting yourself to do those things. And what I realized was our money behaviors are all driven by emotion. And if we can actually learn how to short circuit those negative emotions and supercharge those positive emotions so that we're moving in the direction of our goals, then we can actually have long-lasting financial success. And so that is really my goal, is to get that message out to people, no matter where they are in their finances.
And you know what, Christine, I think that's absolutely fantastic, because we definitely need to, but I want to dive back into something that you said earlier. And you mentioned that it's not something that we're teaching children in schools. And and it's something that I've heard over the years, and I don't know, I in my heart, it's like, okay, this needs to change, because this is a crucial time in their lives, especially through high school. It'd be nicer if they taught it at a younger age, because then they develop those really great habits. Mm-hmm. But what do you feel like? I'm not too sure if this is something that you do. Do you go into high schools or do any talks with teenagers to start that process before they get into their 20s and 30s, when, we're obviously really feeling this?
Yeah. Well, let me just say, I know I'm not called to teach children. I love kids, but I know that, my target is definitely the parents. And I do think it's very important for parents to start at a young age teaching their kids about money and talking openly about money. But the problem is, if the parents aren't financially healthy, they're not going to want to do that. So the very first step for the parents is to rectify their own financial situation and become financially healthy, because kids learn by watching. And so they are going to copy your behavior. And so if they see that when you're stressed out, your first reaction is to go to the mall for retail therapy or go on Amazon, then they think that that is normal. And so that's really the first step that has to happen, is the parents have to say, hey, we have to come to grips with the fact that we're not doing this money thing very well, and we need, we need to rectify this situation. And then and only then can you teach your kids how to handle money responsibly and start having those conversations. Now, there's some great books out there about teaching your kids about money, and there are several money gurus who focus specifically on teaching kids about money. So the tools are out there, but it's hard to teach something to your kids that you're not living yourself.
And I like that, and I respect that, because isn't it true? We are the ones that are going to teach our children in the long run, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're their parents. And I like how you said that, because it's not really the school's responsibility. It's always nice if they teach that within the school system. But yes, if we're able to work on that ourselves, then we're going to be showing our kids the same thing and teaching them those healthy habits, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I like to think about – go ahead. Well, I said I like to think about the whole thing with personal finances as, holistically. I say it's very similar to becoming physically healthy. You can go and do a crash diet and lose 10 or 15 pounds, but is that really making you any healthier? And so I'd like to tell people to, you really need to think about the long game. And, there are, different plans that you can do to, reduce your spending and pay off your debt. But you have to look at it as lifestyle changes. What small lifestyle changes can I make that are starting to move me towards my preferred financial destination that I can live with? Because if you go on a crash diet and you can't have a piece of birthday cake, as soon as your kid's birthday happens, you're falling off the wagon, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I see people kind of have this all or nothing mentality where it's like, okay, now we got to cut all our expenses down to the bone and we can't have any fun. And, we just got every extra penny hammering on this debt. But you can only go so long in that kind of sprinting mentality where I tell people, you know what, it's much better to take a marathoner's approach to this. And, you know, there is portion-controlled, there's room for portion-controlled fun in your spending plan.
You know what a great way to say that, because isn't that the truth? You know, we listen to all these people, we go to seminars, we're always learning, okay, we have no money, what are we going to do? And, you know, you're constantly picking up things to try to change that. But your approach is like, okay, let's start this, but be realistic. You know, we know it's not going to happen overnight. It's a long-term thing. We didn't do this to ourselves overnight. So how do we fix it? You know, we really have to change our mindset. And what you're teaching people is changing their mindset, just like with your health. You're increasing your wealth, but it's got to change. And I think that's a great way to do it.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because, you know, when I'm working with people one-on-one, the first month we work on uncovering money mindsets and creating a clear picture of where they want to go. So I actually give them very few changes to make during the first 30 days. And they're kind of surprised, like, shouldn't I be cutting back on this? Shouldn't I be? And I'm like, no. I was like, you know, if you want to do that, that's fine. But, you know, this first month is all about getting very clear on what your preferred financial destination looks like. You know, what do you want more of? What do you want less of? What's really important to you? And then let's look at where we are, you know, because in order for us to make a roadmap to get to your preferred financial destination, we need to know our destination and we need to know our starting point. And then we start to get into, you know, what are some of the mindsets and the underlying behaviors that have gotten you to where you are today? Because if we don't fix those, it's like if you have a dead tree in your yard and you notice some of the branches are dying, you could go and just cut off those dying branches. But if there's something down at the root, that there's some kind of disease that's infecting the root, you can trim those branches all day long and that's not going to fix that tree. We basically are uncovering the roots and finding out what's going on under here, what needs to be healed, because once you heal those roots, the branches are going to become healthy again. So when you look at the branches, those are like the symptoms. Yeah. And so a lot of financial gurus just want to fix the symptoms without getting to the root.
Can I ask you something, Christine? Because this is something that we've come across over the years on our show. And one of the things, because we interview so many amazing women, what we find is that women almost self-sabotage themselves. Not all women, I'm not saying that, but they're so scared that when they become successful and they have this money, that it's kind of like they get rid of it. Are you seeing that? Is that something that you fix or you help women realize? Because I listen to women all the time, and it seems to be the same thing that's always occurring. Yeah. So let's talk about that, because I find that quite an interesting topic.
Yeah, well, it is. And certainly I think some of it is cultural because, you know, in the past, and I know this is changing, you know, in the past, men have been seen as the breadwinners. You know, they're supposed to be making money. That's part of their DNA and what they do. They're supposed to be competitive, whereas women are seen as cooperative and nurturing. And, you know, once they get into this role of, you know, exceeding other people, sometimes they're uncomfortable exceeding the people around them because they feel like, you know, that puts them out of their comfort zone. And that's something that I work on with my coaching clients is I have them proactively push outside their comfort zones and really dig into, why is this uncomfortable for me? Is it because I've been told that money is evil or it's wrong to want more? You know, it's like, oh, you already have a middle-class life. You know, you shouldn't, you know, you should just be thankful for that, which you should be thankful for that. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with wanting to increase. And, yeah, I have seen that with women and some men as well. So, because if you don't have the skill to manage that money, whether it's, I mean, sometimes it's just financial literacy. Like, oh, if I make $1 million, what the heck do I do with all that money? You know, that's going to push you out of your comfort zone, even though it's a positive thing. You know, so you have to have experts around you that you trust, that you can get advice from. But I certainly think it's important for women to find other women who are succeeding financially and be learning from them. So whether that's a business coach or, you know, there's a lot of great Facebook groups and networking groups where, you know, you can connect with women who are at that higher level that you aspire to be at, and you can learn from them.
I think that's a fantastic advice because, you know, that's what we need, you know, and especially if we start making money and we're okay with it, but we don't know how to keep it. And that's, you know, that's the
right.
The goal is to have as much money as we can. And, you know, because if we have money, we can do things with that money, you know, and I think that's where we talk about the guilt too, is that, you know, we want to give it away, but we don't have to give it away all the time. We can keep it for ourselves too. I want to talk because I know that there's a few other things I want to talk about before the end of our show today, but there is a cause that's really important to you. It's called Mortar. Is that correct?
Mortar. It's Mortar.
Okay. So
yes.
Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Mortar is a nonprofit in downtown Cincinnati, and their mission is curing inner city poverty with entrepreneurship. And you know, I love entrepreneurs. That's you know, one of the niches that I serve is, you know, people who are entrepreneurs. What I love about this program is 80% of the individuals that are going through this program are African American women. And so this program is providing them with all of the tools that they need to successfully run a business. And so I do some guest teaching there. I've donated my books. I've formed some mentor-mentee relationships with people who have gone through the program. And it's really a very cool program and something, you know, I want to get behind even more. You know, one of my goals is to be able to make so much money that I don't even have to bat an eyelash about donating both my books to every single student that goes through their program. Oh. And I think this past year they've had 120 or so students go through, and they have like a pitch night where they can win funding to help start their business. So it's really cool. And every time I go to guest teach, I just get so excited. I want to ask each and every one of them, like, what is your business? Tell me what it is. How can I help you? Because I'm just like, I'm so excited for them, you know?
Yeah, that is fantastic. Well, what a great program. I'm definitely going to be posting about that on our social media, because I think what an amazing thing to be a part of. And thank you so much for mentoring and helping those women through that. I think, wow, what a great thing. And that leads me into your book. I want to hear about your book and how our listeners can get that book.
Yeah, so actually I have two books. My first book is really for anyone. It's called Money is Emotional, Prevent Your Heart from Hijacking Your Wallet. And that is essentially the process that I walk my clients through when we're coaching together. It talks all about the money mindset, how to gain control of your spending, how to get your debt under control and to build up your savings. It's essentially, you know, your manual to becoming financially healthy. And then my most recent book, which was just published 2 weeks ago, is called Manage Money Like a Boss, a financial guide for creative entrepreneurs. So I felt like there's a lot of business books out there, but I felt like creatives were kind of marginalized by the financial industry. You know, it seemed like, you know, they were talking down to them, or they didn't really want to have anything to to do with creatives or take the time of day with them unless they, had a song that was on MTV or had their art in some big fancy gallery. And so I wanted to explain business and accounting to creatives in a way that they could understand, that honors their creativity rather than shoves it to the side.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that's a great thing.
Yeah.
Well, and that leaves, a lot of people. Oh, go ahead.
I said, and even if someone doesn't consider themselves to be in a creative profession, but they just feel like, math is hard, accounting is scary, I don't know what my tax guy is telling me. Manage Money Like a Boss is a great book for anyone who wants to be able to manage their money with confidence in their small business.
And I think that is everybody. Fantastic. Anybody that has a small business always is that's something that we all need. So I think it's absolutely fantastic. Yeah. So Christine, I know this is a question that I'm already getting a couple texts here. Because you're in Cincinnati, and we do have listeners globally now, do you work with people outside of Cincinnati? Do you do webinars? How do you
Absolutely.
Host with people?
Yeah, so I do coaching with people from anywhere. I love Zoom. I use Zoom for my video coaching. If people are in the Cincinnati area, I love coaching with people face to face, but I do meet with clients virtually. I do also have different online programs and things of that nature where anybody can join in and learn what they need to learn there. So if people want to go to my website, which is christineluken.com, or they can just go to moneyisemotional.com if that's easier to remember. That'll take them to the website as well. There's a lot of free resources on there. People can download the first 3 chapters of both of my books so they can check them out before they buy them. And there's a ton of great information on my blog, so they can just search my blog for a particular, financial issue that they're having, and chances are they're going to get at least 3 or 4 blog posts that are going to come up under any topic that you could search for personal finances.
Oh my goodness. And that in itself is a gift. So ladies that are listening, if nothing else, you definitely need to check out her website. Christine, that is wonderful. There's not a lot of people that do that, and it's nice to see that, especially if you're not too sure and you're kind of worried, because you're right. There is a lot of stuff out there, and you have to weed your way through it. And having somebody like yourself that's you wanting to really help these individuals and share what your knowledge and your expertise is in, I think that's such a gift. And thank you so much for doing that.
Hey, no problem. I mean, I needed that. Unfortunately, there wasn't that almost 20 years ago when I was going through that kind of thing. So, it's like, hey, however I can help people. I know not everyone can afford to work with me one-on-one, and that's okay. That's one of the reasons why I wrote the books, because I just want to be able to help as many people as possible to come out from under that money shame and guilt, and have a healthy relationship with their money. Because one of the things that I tell people is that, you and money can change the world. If you have no money, can you still make an impact on the world? Absolutely. But if you and money together, money is like a megaphone. And the more money you have, the more positive change you can affect. So, whether it's donating to causes and charities, whether it is buying environmentally responsible clothing and cars, the more money you have, the more good that you can do.
I love it. And that's why we want to welcome you to our Diva family, Christine. It has been a pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Wow, girl. You guys have got to check out Christine. She's exactly what the Divas That Care stands for. And you know what? I fully believe in what you're doing, Christine, and thank you so much. I hope that you come back on our show when you've got some other things happening and we talk about them too.
Yeah. Hey, anytime. Like I said, I can talk about money for probably straight 8 hours. There's so much to talk about.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much again. And you know what? Thank you to all of our amazing listeners that tune into our show. It's because of you that we continue to do this show, and we're so thankful. We're so grateful for all of you. All of our calls are recorded, ladies. Make sure that you check them out on the divasthatcare.com. And we will be posting all of our shows, and especially this one, on our social media so that you can check it out and send it to your friends and family, because I know that there's probably somebody in your life right now that would really connect with Christine and love what she has to offer. So thank you so much to all of our listeners. Thank you so much to our amazing guest, Christine. And I hope that you guys all have a fantastic day and that you pay it forward. So until next time, everybody, take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Hear that? It's the sound of ATM fees taking a bite of the things you buy with your cash. Luckily, with a TD Unlimited checking account, you pay no TD fee at any ATM in Canada. Open an account today. TD, ready for you. You may pay a fee to a non-TD ATM provider.